Hello, everyone. Welcome here on YouTube and Facebook. It's our next Training for Survival Live. I'm here with Ed Pocock. How are you, Ed?
I'm doing well. How about you?
Good. David was going to join us, but he had something come up, so you're stuck with just the two of us for this evening's live stream. As you're jumping on and you're joining us live, feel free to say hello, drop a comment, and make sure to hit that like button if you like the content we're going to be talking about tonight. We're going to talk about a little bit of the recap of camp, and we're going to talk about some news stories that are just incredible that have happened over the past week. So, first off, what's the weather like down there in good old Connecticut?
Beautiful. The last couple of days have been great. 80 degrees and dry. It's
Oh, that's
nice.
beautiful.
San
It,
Francisco weather in Connecticut. It's wonderful.
we're at about 75 degrees, no humidity, and beautiful
Oh,
sun. So, no complaints up here as well. So we just finished the training for survival camp and had a really good time between the Krav Maga training we did, the rifle course that we ran, the handgun course that we ran. It was a very comprehensive long camp, and it was outstanding, really outstanding. And Ed, you took kind of the forefront on running out that rifle course. Talk a little bit about what you saw in progression from the students and from the course, and give us a little bit of feedback for those that are watching that weren't able to attend, and hopefully we'll get them out here for our October camp.
well, it was an eclectic mix of folks that really had a lot of experience
Yeah.
and those that were trying to sight in their rifles for the first time. And it was great because we were able, myself and Mike Kahn were able to give real personalized attention to folks that were, trying to sight in and those that were already really, on.
Mm.
There was some really good shooters,
Yeah.
there. I mean, really squared away, and the equipment they had was fantastic. So we started off kind of zeroing everybody in, and then of course we had that long range, well, mid range really for the most of the shooting we used to do, but a nice 300-yard plus target
Yeah.
that everybody was drilling and knocking it down, and it was good. It was a lot of fun. One of the things we did, we talked about wind a little bit. Um, we had people shooting out, 725 yards roughly, and hitting the target,
Yeah.
and it was an educational experience for people. For some of them, it was the first time they ever had to read the wind and even think about the wind
Mm.
going that far out. And there was some adjustments up there,
Oh,
but
yeah.
the range was great. I mean, next time around, which I know you're going to talk about, we have some really good ideas for, really kind of develop on, dope books and developing, that skill set level so that when you go to the range, you just, where your rifle is.
Right.
Really some great folks. I
For
mean,
people who don't know, what's a dope book?
a dope book is basically all your zeros for your gun in incremental ranges.
Mm.
So, and then, yeah, Jeff Kahn, yeah, they were all drilling them. It was great. As a coach, the best feeling you can get when you're helping people is when they're hitting targets and the first thought in their mind is, there's no way I'm hitting that little silhouette 700 yards out. And then to see the look on their face, that flash, that smile,
Right.
and that level of confidence, it's a big deal. But a dope book, in essence, gives you your rifles personalized to you and your equipment and what you do. And you look at it and it gives you the ability to be able to dial in elevations fast. So then your biggest challenge is knowing the range of the target you're shooting at.
Right.
And then of course, windage adjustments. There's a formula that I developed that I gave everybody, the article that I had published back in the early 2000s.
Mm.
And you can do that. I have one for 308, but you can do it with 6.5 Creedmoor, which, by the way, all your high speed students were coming in with 6.5 Creedmoor, which is the new, the new thing. I've
Which
gotten to the point now. Where
just accepted it, right?
Go ahead. Well, I'll never go away from 308. I've been shooting it for over 30 plus years now,
Mm.
actively. So to go to 6.5 Creedmoor, I don't know if it would make much sense for me.
Good point
But
that we were talking about the difference between 308 and 6.5 is if things were to go sideways and a shit hits the fan type of scenario, the 6.5 is going to be harder to get your hands on, whereas the 308 is going to be an easier round. So those of you
yeah,
looking at a purchase or looking at the 6.5, it's a beautiful rifle, beautiful shot, right, with the 6.5. But if you're,
flat.
yeah, just some things to keep in mind and consider as you're looking at options, I guess, right?
Yeah, arguably, I mean, to keep in mind too. So think about this: with a bolt action, you're out on a line. Quantity is not the aim.
Mm.
It's excuse me, it's quality. So if you're firing on a line, like I brought out my rifle, I fired 5 rounds when I was out there at 700 because I haven't fired 700 in a while,
Mm.
and bing bing, and I was like, okay, this is nice. I mean, it's just nice. You're there, and so but 6.5 is, yeah. If something ever happened, you're gonna, unless you reload, and then you're collecting your brass, and then you're limited to making sure you have enough primers and stuff. So yeah, 308, but quality 308 would be hard to find too.
Good point.
Easier than 6.5 Creedmoor.
Right.
I would admit that, but quality ammunition out of a bolt action is mandatory. I mean, if you can't cheap out on the ammo, you're only going to get frustrated.
Mm. Oh, Skull Raiders official is online with us. Hello, good to see you online. And Caleb. Hey, Caleb, how are you? Yes, 700 yards is what we were shooting. 700 yards, and
a little over 700.
Yeah, and Jeff Kahn never thought he would hit targets at 300 yards, let alone 700. Well, when you got
Steven, who was up there, and he had his 243 Winchester, which is nothing more than a 308 with an attitude. And he had that, and he had an old scope on there. Mm-hmm. And we were using some old-fashioned Kentucky windage, which is basically wagging it. It's just and so we had him holding above, and he even whacked it once.
Yeah.
He didn't think he'd even come close, and I was like, "Oh no, we're going to get you in there."
Well, you know what I have to say, and I don't know for everyone, but I have to point out that Darren with the 6.5 Creedmoor was able to do 5-on-5 shots at that 700+ yard target.
Not even surprised. Yeah, he was a freaking phenomenal shooter. I mean, he was really good. I mean, you had 3 people out there with 6.5, and none of them were shabby. I mean, they were all, they were drilling it.
Right. Yeah. So congrats, Darren, on getting those shots, and everyone actually, the skill progression from everyone from going early in the day. We started at 100, 200, 300 yards, and then we had 2 courses of fire, and then the second half where we were able to extend and reach out over 700 yards was really impressive. And props to you and Michael for getting them to that point and building their confidence that they were able to make those shots. So thank you. We really appreciate it.
It was great. I love the people that were there. They were just phenomenal. It was really a fun time. For my first time, I was like, and anytime you do something for the first time, you're always apprehensive. I knew a lot of the people that were going to be there.
Right.
But I don't know. I was trying to figure out, and I saw how the training was going, and I'm like, this is like really, really good. I mean, people getting personalized attention,
right?
And it's rare, so rare in a camp,
right?
That you're normally, I've run lines. You've got 20, 30 people sitting on them, and if I can get to 4 people to give them personalized attention, that's a rarity. And in this one here, it was like everybody at some point or another, I was able to, except the ones that really knew what they were doing. They didn't need me so much, but there was a few there that, you had to sit with and you had to help. And this camp was designed for that, Jamie. So really hats off to you. You run a great camp.
Well, that's, part of the design of this was to have personalized attention, have that student to instructor ratio really tight so that, people have questions and they come here and they're, putting out a good amount of money, an investment into their training to make the journey up here and have that experience. We want to make sure they get absolutely everything they possibly can out of their training with us. So if you're joining us online now, feel free to hit that like button if you like the content we're talking about, or if you attended camp, and feel free to drop a comment and say hello. We're on Facebook and YouTube right now.
I think David's trying to get in.
Yeah.
He's not. He's much better looking than me.
But I've got the 2-person screen, and try to go back to the 3-person screen is going to take some technical stuff that I'm not sure and how that's going to go to flip it over. So
David's much better looking than I am. I can tell you that much. They're missing out.
Yeah, especially when he shows his good side. We won't talk about what side that is. All right. So
He's not even here to defend himself. It's
he's not.
wonderful.
And I'm going to hear about it afterwards. But
Oh
um,
yeah.
so here's the next thing. We talked a little bit about camp. And one more thing I need to give props to is Keon up here training with us from Louisiana. And her skill shot that she had to make at the end there of drawing from the hip, cantering, be able to get that skill shot that was probably about a little bit bigger than the size of a quarter and able to hit that dead on in the center. So props to Keon. She was a winner of our top shot for this last camp. And her husband, Dean, did not take the first or second place. So I just want to put that out there.
Well, she can, he can aspire to be as good as his wife, and I think that's good. She's the technician. There's no
yes.
doubt about it.
That's her nickname from this camp. Yes.
Yeah, she's the technician.
Yep.
She lost her first name after this. She's now the technician.
Yeah.
And she's that skilled. And I brought a little police medal up with me that I've had. And when I was in charge of that, these were pretty coveted.
Yeah.
And I brought it up, and I didn't know if I was going to be giving it to anybody. But she definitely rose to that. I gave that to her, and and she was thrilled. It's that smile. That's the when you see students that are excelling, and she was fantastic, just
Absolutely.
fantastic.
Liza was another one who made some really good progression as well during camp and improvement. So, we can go on and on with the list of everyone improved from whether you came in at a pretty good skill level, you improved upon it at this camp. And if you came in with very little skill level, you really improved at this camp and left a different person, which is what it's all about, right?
We had people there that never had an AR-15, wasn't even sighted in, and we were able to get that in, learned about equipment, and was able to get a 50-yard zero and got him hitting targets out at 300 meters like it was nothing. So that's a big deal.
Absolutely. A couple of bolt actions, too, that we didn't have sighted in. October, we're working on curriculum right now. It's going to be an outstanding camp. It's going to be tweaked a little bit differently than what we've done over the past few years, but there is going to be a rifle component to the October camp. Dates will be released in the next couple of weeks, along with registration and early registration. So stay tuned for that. We'll be doing a live stream with Ed and David, and maybe even Mike. Maybe we'll get him to make an appearance. And
drag him in.
Absolutely, and make an official announcement of the October dates and the camp. So we're going to be signing off at about 8:30, but there were a couple of important news stories that I kind of wanted to discuss. And with your background, I thought this next story would be very crucial, kind of bring to our listeners and people watching on our channels. The U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, this is from yesterday, has sent out a warning that cyber attacks against water utilities are becoming more frequent and severe, urging immediate steps to protect the nation's drinking water from future attacks. Now, you've been on a few live streams with us already. It's something we constantly talk about, infrastructure and utilities. And now this is coming out about water systems, which we expected. But tell me a little bit about one, for people that are just joining us that maybe haven't learned your background, give us a short version of the background on the water utilities, and then tell me what you think about this.
Well, I was on our local water commission, which is a large water department for the state of Connecticut, and I was president of that water department for a few years, 4 years out of my 9 that I served there. And I was on that during 9/11. Right, so everybody was torqued up after 9/11. For those that don't remember, that was one of those times where, security became at the front. They were worried about dams getting blown up. I mean, it was the conversations that was back then, the smallpox and all that stuff we talked about before. Right. But on the water side, it was interesting because I gave the story before about how we were trying to, chlorine gas we were trying to replace, which we did. But the state fought us on it, going to the tablet system, which was safer, chlorine gas escapes, not good. Right. Well, we forcibly pushed that change, and the state of Connecticut adjusted their policies on that. The one thing about New England, it's the land of steady habits. Right. So nobody wants to change. Well, what I noticed then is that security was at the forefront, but it quickly petered away. They were talking about forming, police departments like watershed departments and patrols. And I think our town actually bought an ATV for the police department, and for a very short amount of time they patrolled. And then they decided, you know what, no, we're not going to do this anymore. So it all waned.
Mm.
all of it wanes. Something as precious as your water. And, most of your water, if it's, most systems, reservoirs usually during the summer, during a high peak. And then most water systems, they use wells to supplement during, for drinking water during the winter months,
Mm-hmm.
right? That's usually how most of them work. Not all, some do the reservoir year round, but very, very easy, to do nasty things. And so and keep in mind too, how these things are controlled. That we talked about EMPs before, right? I'm not saying an EMP is going to happen here, but
Mm.
all those are run by, supervisory control and acquisition of data,
Mm-hmm.
SCADA type systems that run everything. And the trend is to tie all those in to what controls the pumps. So you could have pumps that are pumping up to a water tower. So the basics of a water system, it's not easy to ruin one. That's why they're concerned. Is you run a pump and it pumps water up to a water tower, and it allows you to service elevations just below that water tower. So that's how you get
Mm.
water to places where you wouldn't think it would go. They pressurize the system.
Right.
Well, you take something like that out, and you just ruin the pumps. And it's not hard to do. And
Remotely through
remotely,
computer. Okay.
you just run them to burn themselves out. And that's part of the concerns. You ruin these systems that they have, and if they're connected in some way, and everything now is connected to the internet because everybody needs their quote unquote software updated,
Mm.
and those are the back doors that they use to get in. So yeah, it's a serious problem. And I'm willing to bet that the security on most of those is lax,
Mm.
and the firewalls are lax. And usually, it's the IT room. It sits in the until it breaks, nobody gives a damn.
Mm.
And you got to keep on it constantly. I'm not saying they're all like that,
Right.
but if you're delivering water and it's going out on time, it gets into one of those things. Well, I'm not thinking about it anymore, so it's not a big deal. And of course, it's a big deal. Or they could program it to, you know, if the system's automated, we're going to put 7 times more fluoride in the water than it should be, or chlorine the hell
Chlorine.
out of it.
Yeah, that was my next question. Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, there's so many different ways that you could screw things up. I mean, it's shutting it down is the one that worries me the most, because everything depends on water,
Right.
everything, and then same thing with sewer for that matter. Most of your sewer systems are gravity fed. I would be willing to bet that the warning that went out to the watersheds probably went out to the sewer sheds too,
Mm.
because, water out means you got to come back somehow. Not all of it gets drank. And even if you drink it, it's coming back through the toilet,
Mm.
in some respects. And all you got to do is shut down a couple pump systems, and you've got a sewer lines backing up. So it's a serious problem.
Right.
And we're there's no great way to fix it, I don't think.
Well, there's
Unfortunately,
so many warnings coming out. I mean, the FBI with their warnings about travel, and the warnings about here just in our home state of people coming over the border, and the flags that are being the red flags that are going off more than 9/11. They've been talking about it for weeks, and now with this EPA and everything going on in the Middle East, I just think there's a lot that everyone should be very aware of, and keep your head on a swivel. And I think there's a lot that's going to be happening over the next few months. We keep saying it. I don't know what it is. I hope there's nothing. I hope that everything is clear sailing from here to the end of the year. But I just don't see it happening. I just don't see it going that way.
no, it's scary. And the thing is, with all these different things like water, you don't appreciate it until the tap ain't running.
Mm.
I mean, and then all of a sudden it's too late. Now you got to find a way to get it, get the system back up and running. And it's not instant oatmeal. I mean, it goes down, then you got water that's sitting stagnant in the pipes. They got to flush them.
Right.
It's a process. And it's the water flows a certain way in the pipes, and then goes backwards, and you get turbidity,
Mm.
and there's all kinds of other issues that happen. So it's a big issue. And people sometimes, I think, they take, especially if you live in a municipal system, you take it for granted.
Right.
But I remember when I was on the police department and Mike and I were doing a lot of IT. I fought for years to keep the police department kind of on its own island. Like we
Mm.
didn't, the state forced us to connect, we firewalled the snot out of it, because my biggest fear was somebody, breaking into the evidence system or breaking into so you tried to physically disconnect those systems
Hmm.
from the outside world. And most water systems, I know ours was for the longest time, they connect via radio, which is wonderful,
Hmm.
and so you can send over signals and the packets are encrypted on either end.
Hmm.
So it's almost like Meshtastic, really, and so you're protected in that way, because if you don't have a handshake at either end, it can't work. So the radio system is great. The
Hmm.
problem is everybody wants you to upgrade, and then you get the state rolls in, and they say, well, you're mandated to do this because we want to be able to monitor and get your reports.
Hmm.
And so now you have to connect to the internet. Now you've just created a door, and there's always going to be some weasel out there that's going to say, I want to cause chaos. And now we have, international actors, and of
Right.
course the way they're pouring across our border,
Hmm.
and then they come in and they say, well, geez, I'm going to connect in and I'm going to take your system down.
Right.
And it's scary. We shouldn't have to think that way, but unfortunately, that's where we're at.
Something else that I think is a potential here is not someone even hacking into the system. If you get some of these bad actors that have come over from the border, and you have 30 of them, and they disperse around the country and simultaneously do something to water systems or grid systems at different areas around the country, it's going to really, number one, scare a lot of people, and put people on edge, more so than they already are, and it's going to shut down some major systems and cause a lot of issues.
It's pretty hard. It's pretty hard though to screw up a reservoir system. I mean, it's a little more difficult than I think people. It's much easier to go after the hardware that controls the purification systems, and ruin those. The delivery system's much easier to get rid of. Shy of to do the other stuff. You've got to have special. We had reports that I will not divulge here that Sandia Laboratories did for us,
Hmm.
and so I got to see some like real world, like how the hell do you really do it?
Yeah.
And in order for somebody to realistically, there's ways of attacking the system, and they're usually the KISS principle, right? Occam's razor. Usually, the simplest answer is the actual answer,
Hmm.
and that's usually where your failures always come in. And I think that's what's going to happen. I think that's going to be that's I think what they're warning for, and I think the EPA and the other federal officials that came out with that, I applaud them for coming out with it, because it's kind of like a wake up reminder. But some people just don't want to wake up. They're in charge. Like, we're fine. It's not
Right.
going to happen here. That shit doesn't happen here. Well, when it does, then you're look at all the schools that um, had their information taken, and then they encrypted it, and then they held your information ransom for a code.
Hmm.
Or you lose all your information. They did it to medical records in hospitals. They've
Right.
done it to school systems. To think that they won't, and they've done it to municipalities for that matter. I know
Right.
experts
Right.
have done that kind of work and had to go in there. And these guys are very, very, very bright,
Yeah.
and they'll tell you the best way to prevent that is to prevent it from
Right.
happening in the first place. Was once it happens, you're probably paying a ransom. A lot of those insurance companies actually paid a ransom, so it's a real threat. It's not fake.
You brought up a good point, because when the AT&T outage happened, that same time frame, I think it was actually the same day, that there was a healthcare system, was a nationwide system. I don't remember who it was, Cigna or one
Out
of
of
the big
Texas,
ones.
I believe.
Who was it?
Out of Texas, I believe.
Yeah,
I'm familiar with the case.
and they took they basically ransomware, right? They took the system down completely. Doctors weren't able to submit anything. Pharmacies weren't able to communicate. All the personal records of the people on that health system were exposed and were taken, and they ended up paying a ransom. It was like
What they do.
crazy millions, billions of dollars that was end up being paid, to recover that. And then at that point, are you really, Ed, recovering it?
Yes. The funny part about it is their business model, if you want to call it that, is the only way it works is you honor your ransom.
Hmm.
So, that for the most part, from what I was told back in the day when I was working these things with guys, is they pay their ransom. They give you the code, and no harm, no foul. Thanks for your cash.
And they don't hold on to that information that can be
Well, they
used
might.
again?
They might. I mean, they may have copied it. That may be it. But as far as the information that they have access to, again, they're
Hmm.
given access to it. It's a scary world. I mean, if you think about it, I mean, these are very nefarious people. It's
Oh,
a
yeah.
business model where this stuff we're talking about tonight isn't a business model. This is simply
Right.
disabling the American way is literally what they're trying to do. The American infrastructure, they're trying to destroy it.
One other thing I want to get your feedback on before we sign off for today is the Iranian president and the helicopter crash. I've read reports and reading some stuff on X and other news sources that have you heard that the weather radar for the 24 hours leading up to the crash has been pulled down off the internet and you can't access the radar shots and the storm or whatever was happening during that time frame in that region?
No, I haven't seen that. I just saw the photos of the recovery, and there was a lot of fog.
Hmm.
And the first thing I thought of was the Kobe crash, right? That was the first thing that went through my mind. And I thought, these are humans flying these things. It happened.
Right.
The president was on this one. He's not really calling the shots in Iran anyway. I mean, so I mean, I don't know. I didn't view it as much as a conspiracy thing. There was 3 helicopters, if I'm correct. 2 of them made it to their destination. One didn't. So, and based on what I saw from the photos that were taken from the recovery crews that went out there, it was thick as pea soup. And, and I kind of thought of the Kobe thing. I mean,
Right.
that happens. You know what I mean? You would think it would happen to a plane that is flying the president of your country around, but it can. Who knows? I mean, it could have been something that happened. You don't know. Maybe
Yeah, I'm just
strapped the chopper and took the controls out and adjusted their elevation. Told them they were at a certain elevation and they weren't, and they went boom. I mean, that's not hard to do. I mean,
yeah. I mean, you would think that they would have the thought process that's precious cargo, and we're going to do something different here to get that precious cargo where it needs to go.
the only thought that went through my mind was if I was going to take down a chopper and I was going to do that, I'd find a way to screw with the pilot's elevation readings. So he would think he's flying at 1,000 feet and he'd be flying at 500.
Right.
And I mean, if you're gonna be a rotten bastard, I mean, that'd be the way to do it. And then the crash would happen and nobody would be the wiser. And then he said, "Oh, it was a mechanical problem," when in effect it was done to the aircraft. And
Right.
I'm not saying it happened. I'm just
No, but just
that would be the most logical way to, if you were gonna surreptitiously kill somebody and you had the government behind you to do it. I mean, that would be one way of doing it.
well, they're having an election, I guess, in a month or two. Figure out who's going to be put into that position. So we'll see how that all unfolds.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Ed, I think we'll head off for now. We're not doing an after party. I think we're still kind of recouping from last week's camp, and
Cleaning, a lot of cleaning.
absolutely. And we'll be back in a couple of weeks with David and hopefully Mike. Let's see what that date is, because I know a lot of you watched the replay here. That would be June 4th. Which is a Tuesday, 8 p.m. We'll be back online here live and have a special theme for you guys, talk about the October camp, and obviously talk a little bit more about some topics that are important to you. If you're watching this replay, make sure to hit the like button. If you're not a subscriber already, please subscribe to our channels. And as always, if you have questions for us or like to see us cover something special on one of these live streams, message us through our website or social media channels and let us know, or put it in the comments. And I guess we'll look forward to seeing everyone back here on Tuesday, June 4th. Ed, do you have any parting words for anyone?
No, I mean, everybody missed out on David's good-looking face. He was banging on the window trying to get in here a little while ago.
Sorry, David.
People had to put up with my ugly mug for the whole time. But
well, thank you for stepping in.
No, it was great.
And helping out. And, we'll look forward to having you back on June 4th, that Tuesday. So sign off for myself, Ed, and we'll see you all back here on June 4th. Be safe, everyone. We'll see you soon.